My wife texted me, "I want a divorce, all communication through my lawyer." I replied, "Understood," then canceled every credit card she had. 72 hours later, her lawyer was frantically calling, but that was just the beginning of her discovering what lawyers only really meant. I was deep in quarterly financial projections at my desk when my phone buzzed that Tuesday afternoon. After 15 years of marriage, my wife Olivia chose to end everything with a text message. Not a conversation, not even a phone call. Just cold digital words on a screen. "Ethan, I want a divorce. Please direct all future communication through my lawyer, Mr. Peterson. His contact details will follow." I stared at that message for maybe 5 minutes, my analytical mind already shifting from shock to strategic assessment. We'd had dinner together just the night before, discussing weekend plans like any normal couple. She'd laughed at my joke about the neighbor's new sports car, kissed me goodbye that morning. Nothing had suggested this nuclear option was coming. But as I sat there in my corner office, overlooking the city's financial district, where I'd built my career as a senior financial analyst, I realized the emotional shock would have to wait. She'd just declared war via text message and set the terms of engagement. Lawyers only. My response was simple. Understood. Then I got to work. Not emotional work. Practical, methodical, financial work. The kind I'd been doing for 20 years, first at Goldman Sachs, then at my current investment firm, where I manage portfolios worth more than most people see in 10 lifetimes. If Olivia wanted to make this purely transactional, she'd forgotten who she was dealing with. I didn't get to managing 8-figure portfolios by being sloppy with contracts and agreements. First, the credit cards. Olivia had supplementary cards on all my accounts, not joint ownership, just authorized user status. A crucial distinction I'd insisted on after watching my parents' divorce implode over commingled finances. I pulled up my banking apps one by one. American Express Platinum, click User Removed. Chase Sapphire Reserve, click Access Revoked. 4 cards total, all canceled within 10 minutes. The banks would notify her when she tried to use them, but by then it would be too late. Next, the monthly allowance. I'd been transferring $4,000 monthly to her personal account for discretionary spending. Shopping, lunches with friends, her book club wines. It was on top of all household expenses I covered, logged into my bank's recurring transfers, canceled, effective immediately. She wanted lawyers to handle everything, then lawyers could negotiate future support through proper legal channels. The streaming services and subscriptions all ran through my accounts. Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, her Peloton membership, even her beloved Masterclass subscription. I methodically went through each one, logging out all devices except mine and changing passwords. 23 services total. If she wanted entertainment, she could pay for it herself with her part-time graphic design income, which I knew barely covered her coffee budget. The car situation required more thought. The Mercedes SUV she drove was leased under my name, insurance in my name, gas card tied to my now-canceled Amex. I couldn't just cancel the insurance, too dangerous for other drivers. But I made a note to discuss immediate transfer with my attorney. The gas card was already dead with the credit card cancellation. Within 30 minutes, I'd systematically dismantled every informal financial arrangement built on 15 years of marriage and trust. Not out of spite, but out of pure logical necessity. She'd declared our marriage over via text and demanded all communication go through lawyers. Well, lawyers don't work on assumptions and goodwill. They work on contracts and formal agreements. And she'd just voided ours with a text message. Her lawyer's contact information arrived an hour later. I forwarded it immediately to Rebecca Cole, the top divorce attorney in the city. I'd actually met her at a charity function 2 years ago, never imagining I'd need her services. Her retainer was $25,000, which I transferred within the hour. My email to her was brief. Received divorce demand via text. Instructed all communication through lawyers. Have complied. Need immediate counsel on asset protection and next steps. I finished my quarterly projections, submitted them to the partners, and drove home to our suburban house. Correction, my house, as the deed was in my name from before our marriage. The house felt different, emptier. Olivia had clearly packed while I was at work. Her closet was half empty, her jewelry box gone, the bathroom cleared of her expensive skincare products. She'd been planning this, preparing while I sat at dinner, making jokes about the neighbor's midlife crisis car. That night, I called my brother Marcus, a corporate attorney in Boston, not for legal advice, but for perspective. "She texted you," he said, incredulous. "After 15 years, she texted you divorce papers?" "Not even papers, just, 'I want a divorce, talk to my lawyer.'" "And you cut her off financially?" "I accepted her terms of engagement. She wants lawyers only. That means no more informal arrangements. Everything goes through proper legal channels now." Marcus laughed, a sharp sound. "She has no idea what she just started, does she? Remember what you did to that hostile takeover attempt at Dad's company?" I did remember. 3 years ago, a competitor tried to force a buyout of our father's manufacturing firm through aggressive tactics. I'd spent 6 months systematically documenting every regulatory violation, every financial discrepancy, every questionable business practice. When they finally made their move, I had a 40-page report ready for the SEC. The competitor ended up under federal investigation. Their CEO resigned in disgrace, and Dad's company bought their assets for pennies on the dollar in bankruptcy court. "This is different," I told Marcus. "This is just accepting the reality she created." "Right," he said, clearly not believing me. "Just remember, document everything." I slept surprisingly well that night. There's something clarifying about having a clear adversary and defined rules of engagement. Olivia had made a critical strategic error. She'd assumed I'd continue supporting her lifestyle while she orchestrated her exit. She'd forgotten that I'd spent 2 decades analyzing risk, managing hostile negotiations, and protecting assets. She'd forgotten that emotional decisions don't trump financial reality. 3 days later, Friday afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number, but I had a feeling. "Hello? Is this Ethan Blackwood?" The voice was sharp, impatient, already irritated. "Speaking. This is David Peterson. I represent Olivia Blackwood in the divorce proceedings." "I see. Mr. Blackwood, my client is experiencing some difficulties. Her credit cards have been declined. Her financial support has been cut off abruptly. This is highly irregular. Financial status quo is generally maintained during separation proceedings." I kept my voice perfectly level, the same tone I used when explaining to clients why their risky investments had failed. "Mr. Peterson, my wife sent me a text on Tuesday demanding a divorce and stating all communication must go through you. I acknowledged and complied. All informal financial arrangements ceased at that moment. Future support will need to be negotiated formally through proper legal channels, specifically between you and my counsel, Rebecca Cole." There was a pause. I could hear papers shuffling. "She needs funds immediately, for necessities, for accommodation." "Accommodation?" I allowed genuine surprise to creep in. "Where is she staying?" "That's not pertinent. The point is you acted in bad faith, cutting her off without warning." "Mr. Peterson," I said, my voice cooling to the temperature I used with hostile board members, "my wife unilaterally ended our marriage via text message and instituted a lawyers-only communication rule. She ended the status quo. She terminated the trust and communication our financial arrangements were built on. Any financial support going forward will be determined through proper legal channels, not through frantic phone calls about declined credit cards that she was never the primary holder of." A longer pause. "My client will be seeking emergency financial relief. That's her prerogative. Please direct all filings to my attorney, Rebecca Cole. You have her contact information." "Yes," he said stiffly. "Excellent. Then this conversation is concluded per my wife's directive. Good day." I hung up. My heart was pounding, but not from anxiety, from validation. She'd wanted cold and legal. She was getting exactly that. Rebecca called an hour later. "Just got off the phone with Peterson. He's furious. Apparently his client didn't quite explain the situation accurately. She told him you'd been financially abusive, controlling. He didn't know about the text or her lawyer's only demand until I sent him the screenshot. And he's scrambling. He's filed for emergency temporary support and exclusive use of the marital home. The amount he's asking for is laughable. Basically wants you to maintain her complete lifestyle plus pay for new accommodation plus cover all legal fees. About $12,000 a month total." I laughed. "She makes maybe $2,000 a month from her design work. She wants me to pay her 6 times her income to divorce me?" "That's the opening salvo. I'll counter with something more reasonable based on actual need versus want. Maybe $3,000 monthly, temporary with conditions. The judge will probably land somewhere in the middle. But here's the interesting part. I did some checking. Mr. Peterson isn't a family lawyer. He's a general practice attorney who mostly does real estate closings. She clearly picked him because he was cheap, not good. That's a mistake. A big one. He doesn't know the local judges, doesn't understand the financial disclosure requirements, and definitely doesn't grasp that your documented evidence of her unilateral actions actually matters. This is going to be easier than I thought. But easy was relative. The next week, the emotional manipulation campaign began. Wednesday night, my phone rang. Olivia's best friend, Haley. "Ethan, what the actual hell is wrong with you?" "Hello, Haley." "Don't hello me. Olivia is on my couch crying. You cut her off completely. She couldn't even buy groceries. You're making her homeless." "Haley, Olivia demanded a divorce via text message and insisted on lawyers only. I respected her wishes." "Bullshit. You know she barely works. How is she supposed to live?" "She hired a lawyer before talking to me. Financial matters go through him now. That's the process she chose." "You're being cruel and vindictive. After 15 years. She was emotional when she made the decision to instruct lawyers only. Hiring Mr. Peterson was also emotional." Silence. Then, "She deserves support. You always took care of her. And I would have discussed things amicably if she hadn't ended our marriage via text and immediately lawyered up. She set the rules. We follow them now." "She'll take you for everything," Haley spat. "She can try. Everything will be handled legally through our attorneys. I'm not discussing this further. Goodbye." The next day brought a new surprise. A bank alert on my phone. Attempted withdrawal from an old savings account. I'd completely forgotten about it. A joint account we'd opened years ago for a vacation fund that never materialized. Maybe $500 left in it. Olivia had apparently found the old debit card and tried to drain it. I went straight to the bank, explained the pending divorce, and froze the account. The bank manager was helpful, noting the sudden activity on a dormant account looked suspicious anyway. It wasn't about the money, it was about the pattern. While her lawyer screamed bad faith, she was trying to drain accounts behind the scenes. Rebecca was delighted when I told her. "This is perfect. She's demanding emergency support while secretly trying to drain joint accounts. Shows clear bad faith on her part." The emergency support hearing came 3 weeks after the text. I sat in the courtroom in my best suit, the one I wore for board presentations. Olivia was across the aisle, looking stressed and tired, avoiding eye contact. She'd lost weight, her designer clothes replaced with something off the rack. The contrast to her usual polished appearance was striking. Mr. Peterson argued dramatically that Olivia was destitute, a victim of my malicious financial manipulation. He painted a picture of a controlling husband who'd pulled the rug out from under a dependent spouse. His presentation was emotional but sloppy, lacking crucial documentation. Rebecca systematically dismantled his argument. She presented the text message, time-stamped, showing Olivia initiated divorce and demanded lawyers-only communication. Bank statements proved I'd canceled only supplementary cards and allowances tied to my personal accounts, all after receiving the text. She showed evidence I still paid the mortgage, utilities, car lease, and insurance, all the major fixed costs. Then the coup de grace, proof of Olivia's attempt to drain the joint savings account after demanding lawyers handle everything. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, turned to Olivia. "Mrs. Blackwood, why didn't you discuss divorce with your husband before sending this text?" Olivia mumbled something about feeling intimidated. After 15 years of marriage, the judge's expression suggested she wasn't buying it. "Mr. Blackwood," the judge said, "while your response was aggressive, it appears to be a direct reaction to Mrs. Blackwood's chosen method of initiating divorce proceedings. Mrs. Blackwood, you can't demand formal legal proceedings, then expect informal financial arrangements to continue." The ruling. Temporary support of $3,500 monthly, far closer to our proposal than Peterson's ridiculous demand. Enough for basic needs and a contribution to legal fees, but nowhere near funding her previous lifestyle. The judge specifically noted that Olivia's own actions, the text, the account drain attempt, contributed to her current situation. Peterson was furious. Olivia looked shocked. She genuinely expected to keep living exactly as before while divorcing me via text message. But they weren't done. The next week, the really dirty tricks started. First, a call from my HR department. An anonymous complaint had been filed, alleging I was using company resources for personal legal matters and showing erratic behavior suggesting mental instability. Fortunately, my boss Richard knew me well. We'd worked together for 8 years. The complaint was vague, unsubstantiated. HR checked my computer logs, found nothing. Richard called me in for a quick chat. "Divorce?" he asked simply. "Yeah, she's playing dirty." "Need any time off?" "No, work keeps me focused." "Good. This complaint is bullshit. We're documenting it as unfounded, but watch your back." Rebecca noted it for our files. Hard to prove the source, but the timing was suspicious. It showed a pattern of harassment that would matter in final proceedings. Then Olivia's mother called. Tears, accusations, guilt trips. "How could you do this to her? The judge was unfair. You should give her more money. Think of all the years she gave you." Same response. "Olivia chose this path. Financial matters are handled through lawyers as she requested. I can't discuss it." She called me heartless and hung up. But the calls kept coming. Her father, her sister, mutual friends, who'd clearly only heard her version. I documented every call, every accusation, every attempt at emotional manipulation. Meanwhile, I went on offense legally. The car lease was ending in 2 months. Rebecca sent Peterson formal notice. Olivia needed to qualify to take over the lease or return the vehicle. I would stop payments after the current period. Insurance would be canceled concurrently. 30 days notice, all properly documented. Olivia couldn't qualify for the lease on her income. She refused to return the car. Peterson argued it was a necessity. Rebecca countered that temporary support included transportation costs. She could buy or lease something within her means. The deadline passed. I informed the leasing company I wouldn't renew. They repossessed the Mercedes from outside Haley's apartment. The calls from Haley were frantic, furious. I didn't answer. Everything forwarded to Rebecca. For the house, I filed for exclusive use since Olivia had voluntarily vacated. Started the valuation process for eventual sale or buyout. Market was good. The house had appreciated 40% since purchase. My premarital down payment and payments from my separate account meant I had a stronger claim to the equity. Then came financial discovery. Rebecca pushed hard for full disclosure. Olivia had to reveal everything, and that's when things got interesting. Turns out she had a separate savings account her parents had been contributing to for years. About $50,000 she'd never mentioned. Some inherited stocks from a grandmother worth another $30,000. Not huge money, but she'd hidden it while claiming destitution. Peterson tried arguing it was separate property. Rebecca proved Olivia had commingled funds, using our joint income to pay expenses while keeping her separate money untouched. The judge wasn't pleased about the hidden assets after Olivia's poverty claims. 6 months after the text, we finally reached a settlement. The judge had signaled impatience with Olivia's tactics in pre-trial conferences. Facing a worse outcome at trial and potentially paying my legal fees, Olivia agreed to settle. The house equity split 55-45 in my favor. Recognition of my larger contribution and her hidden assets. The stocks were divided as marital property. She kept her separate savings. Spousal support was limited to 2 years, $2,500 monthly, contingent on efforts to become self-supporting. Each party paid their own legal fees. A win for me, since Peterson had threatened to seek fee reimbursement. The aftermath was predictable. Olivia moved into a small apartment, increased her design work, and complained constantly about money according to mutual acquaintances. Haley apparently got tired of the drama and distanced herself. Olivia's parents were likely still supplementing her income, but that wasn't my concern anymore. Did I ever get an apology, an explanation? No. Through the entire process, Olivia seemed genuinely baffled that I hadn't just continued funding her lifestyle after she nuked our marriage via text. The entitlement ran so deep, she couldn't comprehend that actions have consequences. Looking back now, a year later, I'm in a better place. The divorce cost me about $100,000 between legal fees and settlement. But I kept my house, my retirement accounts, and most importantly, my dignity. I learned I could handle a crisis with strategic thinking rather than emotional reaction. I'm dating someone new, a financial advisor who actually understands my work and appreciates my analytical nature. Olivia still texts occasionally, always about money, needs help with this bill or that expense. I forward them all to Rebecca, who sends formal responses reminding her that support terms were finalized in the divorce decree. She wanted lawyers only. She's still getting exactly that. The satisfaction isn't in revenge, it's in the clean simplicity of accepting someone's stated terms and holding them to it. She wanted to end our marriage with a text and handle everything through lawyers. I gave her exactly what she asked for. Cold, formal, legal proceedings with no special treatment based on our history. Sometimes when I'm reviewing portfolios at work, I think about the financial models I run. Risk assessment, outcome probability, strategic positioning. Olivia failed to run even the most basic model before sending that text. She assumed I'd be too emotional to think strategically. She assumed I'd keep paying while she orchestrated her exit. She assumed wrong. My brother Marcus asked me recently if I had any regrets about how I handled things. I told him the truth. My only regret was not seeing it coming. The signs were probably there. The separate savings account, the increasing distance, the way she'd started referring to my money versus our money. But I was busy with work, comfortable in routine, trusting in 15 years of history. Now I know better. Trust, but verify. Document everything. And when someone tells you exactly how they want to interact with you, believe them and act accordingly. Olivia wanted our marriage to end with a cold text message and lawyers. That's exactly what she got, along with every logical consequence that followed. The most ironic part, last month I ran into Peterson at a legal conference. He pulled me aside, slightly drunk, and admitted Olivia had been his worst client ever, demanding, unrealistic, constantly changing her story. He said if she'd just talked to me instead of sending that text, she probably would have gotten a better deal. I just smiled and said, "She set the terms." He laughed bitterly. "Yeah, she certainly did."